Hi, my name is Susan Weimer. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My blog is www.stampbackandrelax.blogspot.com, and I'm here with another card for Craft and Desert Divas, and we'll be using the Faux letterpress technique with a stencil, and we'll be making this card that's coming up with that technique and a couple of images from Craft and Desert Divas and our Copics. Can't forget those. And then here I am. I've got 4 pieces of linen textured cardstock cut into use the A2 size. I have our party balloon stencil and the Sorted Shapes 2 stencil. I end up not using that. I have our Lady Garden Bugs stamp set, and I'm going to use that Oopsie Daisy. I'm sorry, I forgot because I need to make some belated birthday cards. And I'm going to use this cute little image from Ladybug Garden as our focal point. I have my Misty, and I have my Spellbinders equipment so that I can make the sandwich and show you how to do that. If your machine is different, you're going to be using a different procedure for laying this out. You should look at the directions that come with your machine or are on your platform. And again, this is the Spellbinders Platinum 6. So the first thing that needs to be done is that the stencil goes down first on this particular machine. And please excuse my voice, it's pollen season here in Florida. Here I'm almost going to make the mistake of putting the paper first, but no. So there's a trick to this. The linen-based paper that I'm using is got a smooth side and a slightly rough side. You put the rough side face down on top of the stencil. That's the side that we really want embossed. So I'm taping the stencil down in place, and then I'm trying to find out which side of the paper I need to use. And then I'm going to tape that down into place as well with a little bit of painter's tape. I know there's a new kind of tape out there. It's a purple color tape, and I forget what it's called, but it's also made by the same company that's a little less sticky than this one. And then there's the embossing mat. In my machine, I need to use a cardstock shim. That's just the, I think, 80-pound weight of Nina. And then my embossing platform. And again, just wanted you to know that it's a Spellbinders platform, not anything else, not a Big Shot, not a Cuttlebug, or I don't remember if there's any other machines. So now I've got this back, and you can see the image is embossed. And I actually did a bunch of these because I need to make a bunch of birthday cards that are belated. I'm not a very good birthday card person. I'm not sure why. And please excuse the lighting. I purchased new lighting, and even though it's very bright in here, it's still not quite what I want it to be for these videos. I've taped down my paper. And then what we're going to do is not just leave it like this. We're going to place the stencil back on the top, and the stencil is sided. So you have to figure out which side you have to use. I always laugh at myself when I watch these things. Like, it takes me a while to figure this out. Yeah, flip it over. That would be better. And so you want to flip it over, get it lined up basically with the images that you just embossed. And there's going to be another mistake coming. So I'm going to tape that onto my white blotter paper. I have yet to find anything that doesn't slip for me while I'm on camera. If I were off camera, the slipping wouldn't happen, but I think it's Murphy's Law when you're on camera. Excuse me. So we're going to be using 3 different colors of Distress ink. 2 are Distress Oxides. 1 is lemonade, squeeze lemonade. And I've got a fresh sponge out for that. And I have for my Distress Oxides a sponge for every color because I find that because that ink's juicier, I think because there's the pigment properties to it, that the sponges can get easily contaminated. Oh, and there it slipped. No kidding, that would not have happened had I not been on camera. And so I'm trying to think about how I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to go back to my method that I did last time. I'm going to stick the paper down with some adhesive, and it won't do anything to the excuse me, the paper. You might hear a TV in the background. My husband just got home from work. In fact, both of us just got home. I apologize for that. Okay, so this is all ready to go. And what I'm trying to do is put on the lightest ink first, and then I'm trying to leave a light highlight of the ink in the left top-hand corner. So you'll see me go a little bit lighter up there. And again, I have a fresh applicator sponge for each one of these inks. And, excuse me, I end up having to use a distress ink here eventually because they haven't fully released all of the distress oxides. I do have most of them, but they're not, I wish they had just released all of them all together. I'm missing a few of my favorites like sponge sugar and tumbled glass. Maybe I should go back and look and see if sponge sugar is available. I might be wrong on that. I was going to do this in pink balloons since that's the mood board colors that we have for this month. They're purples, pastel purples, pastel pinks, blues, and yellows. It's a very, very, very pretty board that we have for March for our challenge, which would be great if you entered it. It's over in the Facebook gallery under events, and there are prizes for, I think, the first 3 people that get chosen. So it's a nice little thing to do, and it gives you somewhere to start. But because I didn't have the 3 ink colors that I wanted, I just decided to go with the yellows. And it actually turns out really pretty. And I did hear that lemonade, squeezed lemonade, was one of the prettiest colors. Excuse me, I'm periodically taking a drink of water. Then there's fossilized amber, which in the oxides, I think is a far prettier color than in the distress inks. And so that's my mid-tone color. So if we think of this like Copic Squeeze Lemonade, it's going to be my highlight color. And fossilized amber is going to be my mid-tone. And then I think Scattered Straw, I bring that in at the end in a regular distress ink as the darker part. And then I go over all of it again. So I'm just doing this very carefully because there are delicate parts of the stencil. And I want to make sure that I maintain those highlights. And funny thing is, on camera, this ink looks a little bit more green-ish colored than it is in real life. It's a really pretty, happy yellow. And then here comes the Scattered Straw and the regular distress ink. And again, I'm going to change the applicator sponge. And then I just keep one for each ink color once I use a new one. I'm just putting it a little bit at the bases, just trying to give a little bit of depth there. I need to go look and see if Scattered Straw is in the older release of the Distress Oxides. I do not have all of those. I should go look. And then I'm going to go over one more time with the Squeeze Lemonade. And I just put a piece of paper there to keep my fingers from getting inky and from leaving spots on the cardstock. And one thing I just wanted to point out is that even though this is a textured cardstock, it blends equally as well as Bristol cardstock. In fact, so well that I may actually change from using Bristol to using this because I have a lot more. And then I'm just going to go over with Squeeze Lemonade for the final blend. I was truly impressed with this. I did not try it on the basil linen-based cardstocks that I have, but I would imagine it would be the same. And if I do try it, I'll put it down on my blog post how the basil worked. I just didn't have time to do that today. Or yesterday is actually when I made the card. Excuse me. So there's one little corner up there that lifted up. I'm just trying to make sure that I get it covered. And I got a little piece of fuzz. I don't know how. I don't have a pet. Where the fuzz comes from, I don't know. And then there's the card. And again, it looks kind of brownish green, but in real life, it's very, very pretty. I'm going to take it off the blotter. And you can see just how nicely that comes out. And it's such an easy technique. Like I said, I think I rolled 4 or 5 of these through, and then I'll color the rest of them up. There's a little bit of adhesive there, and I'm just going to use an adhesive eraser to clean off my blotter, and we're done with that. So it's good to have one of those on hand. So now on to the Copic coloring. I have a piece of Copic Expressive blending card that I use for my Copic coloring in my Mini Misty. This is a brand new stamp, so I'm going to have to double stamp. First, I put it down on the wrong side. Have you ever done that? Yeah, put the stamp down, picked it up, and then you ink it up and put it back down and you get a solid blob. Yeah, I almost did that right there. So I'm going to move the magnets around, and I use the Misty because I have a tremor. Feel free to use any acrylic blocks or any other stamp positioners that you have. The Misty is the one that works best for me. It really made a huge difference, and you'll see later one of the reasons why I really like it. So I'm going to ink this up with Memento Tuxedo Black, which is a Copic safe ink, and give it a couple of stamps. And see what happens. I only use the Copic Expressive blending card for Copic coloring. It's not anything that I use to make a card base or to make a card front from, unless I was making an entire scene. But I do find that it blends better than the Nina so far in my experimenting. I've only used it for about a month, and I'm still really enjoying working with it. And I save every little piece of it. Not a bit goes to waste because it's so much more expensive. Just going to give this a second stamping. Pat it down, make sure I get it all nice and inked. And again, this was a stamp that hadn't been inked yet, and often they'll need 2 stampings. Craft and Desert Divas stamps are really high quality polymer, photopolymer that are made in the United States. So I've never ever had a problem with any of their images not taking ink after the first or second time, and they never need to be conditioned beforehand. So I actually cleaned up my desk. Woohoo! And we're going to speed this up now. And I'm going to try to keep all my markers up in the top left-hand corner, and I start with Y11. And I'm just going to put my base coat down, and I always start putting the first touches where the shadows are going to be. So I leave that highlight. I can be really heavy-handed with my darks, so I tend to just do this first. And it works fairly well for me. And I'm going to go with Y13 next. Pull that up just a little bit. And I still am trying to preserve some of that highlight at the edge of the petals. In some places I'm more successful than in others, but you know, live and learn. I've only been using Copics for about 4 years. I suppose that I should have learned by now. So now I'm just doing a little bit of light flicking with this Y17 because it tends to be on the orangey side. And I'm just going to go around and do her. And one thing I want to say with these smaller images, as fun as they are to color, you sometimes discover after you've colored something that there's a part that you forgot, that you didn't see a piece of her headdress or a hand or an ear or something, and that's okay. It's okay to get the color on there and then find those things afterwards. It's never caused me any problem. So I'm pulling the Y15 back out, and then now I'm going to decide this is how I'm going to stay on camera if I draw this circle. And then at Y24, YR24 is usually my darks for the Y1s. I know that doesn't make sense because it's a YR, not a Y, but coat books don't always make sense. And this is what I find works best. And then I'm going to come back with my Y13, excuse me. Get that blended out a little bit more. I really wanted her face to pop, and then just give the final blend with the side. I use the side edge of my Y11 marker. And then I'm going to come in and do the face next. I speeded this up, but guess not enough. quadruple zero. I need to get the E triple zero. I placed an order a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure why I didn't get that marker. And then E double zero. And I think this is the E zeros are, and the E01 is probably one of those color families that where having more of the marker is better. More of those marker colors, rather, excuse me, is better. Because it makes blending easier, and especially on faces, you want those to turn out really good because they're often the focal point of what you're doing. E04 is really nice to blend with, I think, on these small critters because they're fanciful critters, and so they don't need those grayish undertones from E70 or a BB00 that I sometimes use on if the character is supposed to be looking more like a person. So I'm going back in and blending it out with the E quadruple zero, and again, excuse me. And I'm adding some RV10 onto her little cheeks. And this is one of the things I need to learn when I'm videoing, that I should pull my markers before I start. I often choose things on the fly. I'm sure you do too. So I'm going to use RV10 on her little hat here and her the tiny little bit of her dress that's showing, and on her little ears. And then RV19 is the darkest color in that series. And this is an odd series of markers, I think, to blend. So I recently just purchased RV13. I think that'll be the one that's coming up. And it's helped the blending a whole lot more than what I was using before. And I might buy more of these again just to get the blending because it is such a pretty color. It's such a vibrant shade of hot pink that I think it's worth it. Another series that's really nice to have are the B9s. They just give such a smooth blend. I have all of them but one. And if you're doing a sky, it's nice to have them, a darker sky. It's nice to have that whole series. Then I'm just coming back to fixing a little blue there. And then I realized she had hands hanging over the pot. I always find these things at the end. But like I said, that just happens with these. It's hard to see sometimes in the image until you've started coloring it. Just blending that in a little bit more. And then I'm going to come in with the YG1 series to do her bow, the little white spots in her ear, and the two leaves. And then I found another space that needed some of the pink and some of the darks. I think that's kind of fascinating to think about what the artist was drawing and why they put in these tiny little things and these details. And I feel that I should try and color them in, because they're intended to be there, and it's not my drawing, really. I wish I could draw like that, but that's not going to happen. So this is YG17. I'm just trying to get some dark tones in there, and I've left, as you can see, I've tried to leave some white highlights in there, and I'll go over that at the end with YG11, which is one of my favorite shades of green. I think this is my favorite green series, and I might have to buy more of them. I have full set syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard anybody discuss that, but that's when you need all the markers or all the pencils or all of something. And then I'm going to put a little W10 on her nose. I was going to color her nose brown, but I thought that would take away from her cute little face. And then G29, I'm coming in and I'm adding some darker highlights on those leaves. And this is a marker I think, again, I'm no expert and I haven't been around that long, I think everybody should have. It's one of the first ones I got. I can't remember who recommended it to me. I was taking some classes in person with people. One of them it might have been Sandy Alnock. I was lucky enough to go to one of her classes, and I'm glad I picked up this marker. It goes with just about any G or YG series markers. And now here comes experiments, because I didn't prepare ahead of time. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to make the pot look like a clay pot, but I hadn't done that in a long time and I couldn't remember my color combination. So one of the things I try to do is when I find a good color combination is to write them down in my journal. So I have a page, it's actually a few pages that's dedicated to skin tone colors, and I have pages for outfits, pages for things like this. So yeah, that is one ugly marker. And there's a reason why I left it like that and I wrote danger. And that's because that marker in the past has blooped on me. And I've tried taking the chisel nib off the end and letting the pressure equalize, but I still end up with bloops. So I found that if I write or draw off with the marker on my paper, that's EO7, it's done the same thing. I get some of that dropping tendency worn off. And again, I'm using a flicking motion here, trying to preserve some of that highlight in the middle. But I think that's YR18. So, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of E18 because there's some red undertones to the E1 series, and excuse me, it works well with these. And then just going to use a white gel pen to get rid of the bloop. Okay, so we're back here at my Misty, and this is where putting sentiment straight is so difficult for me because of my tremor and some other hand issues that I have. And this is where I feel really blessed to have my Misty, because these are the creative corners. I just got them in the mail on Monday, and I'm so glad I bought them. Look how straight. That's going to be straight. And normally it wouldn't be crooked, and I can't tell you the number of times that I've actually put a crooked sentiment on my card because I've stamped it out 5 times, and I can't get it lined up because at the last minute my hand will give a twitch, and there you go. And this is VersaFine ink in Onyx Black, and again, that's stamped up basically just perfectly, first time ever used, and these stamps really are high quality. So I love these corners, just love them. Highly recommend them. Okay, so I've got my card base, which is 110 pound Nina top folding cardstock, piece of cardstock, excuse me. I'm going to glue my front panel there right down. And then I'm going to, and I'm pressing it down with that extra piece of cardstock. And excuse all the Copics on there. I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of her. And here's where I think my recommendation is, if you're starting out, is to lay the design out before you adhere it, because you're going to see in a minute why that I should have done that. So I've popped up the sentiment so that it acts more like a shelf for the little plant. See, there she is. She's so cute. But now I think, oh, that pot looks kind of blah and boring. So I'm going in with my Wink of Stella because I think she needs some shimmer. But that isn't going to be enough. And you're going to see this really ridiculous thing I do. And I don't have the back of her completely covered with foam tape. So that's my other lesson. Cover the whole thing with foam tape because you might want to change your mind about something. So I'm going to get out my white. Oh no, I've got out my enamel dots. I don't know if these are still in style or not, but they're still in my drawer. And I feel like I must put enamel dots or sequins on everything. And I'm not sure. I should get back on Instagram and see what the trends are. I just like them, and besides, they've got to get used up. I have so many, and couldn't find my jewel pick, so I finally got that off my fingers. Then I put another one down. So excuse the noise at my door. And now I'm going to use my gel pen to put some polka dots in the top rim. And that was going fine until I got to the part where there was no adhesive, foam adhesive, so it was a little unlevel. And now I'm going to be really silly. I'm going to try to draw straight lines across something that's not fully taped down. So I'm sad to say that the recipient will probably notice that these lines aren't straight. But I know that this card is going to someone who's going to love it anyway. I know my card making friends will understand when I make a mistake. So I'll save my ones that I feel are less than perfect for them because they'll still love them. Things that are perfect I send to other people. That sounds crazy. I did add a couple of little white dots to her cheek, and fortunately this didn't come out, but it was actually my white Nuvo drops. And I was trying to put it on her nose, excuse me, when I realized that I really wanted the crystal glaze. And so I've switched to using that from Glossy Accents, and it doesn't seem to clog up, but in this case too much came out. So I'm just tapping the back just to get rid of the little bubble that's there. And I realized it's a button in her dress, so I went in and colored that, and there's the card. And thank you for being here with me today. Again, I am Susan_Weimer on Instagram. I would love it if you followed me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment section, and I will review them. I look at them all the time to make sure that you don't have any questions. And this video is also over on the Craft and Desert Divas blog. And thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate it. And please visit again. Thank you.